My grandfather gave a luxury car to each of his 12 grandchildren. Only I, the most devoted grandson, was left with nothing. My grandfather said, "You live close to work. Giving you a car would be a waste." When I heard that, I said nothing. That very night, I quietly canceled the private care facility I had arranged for him, which cost 400,000 yuan a year. I arrived 10 minutes late to that family dinner. I sat in the coldest seat, right next to the door. My grandfather, Yang Zhengguo, sat at the head of the table. One by one, he handed out the 12 cars to my cousins, seated around the table. From Audis to BMWs, everyone got one. Then my grandfather called my name. "Yang Chen, you live close to the company. Take the subway. Giving you a car would be throwing it away." The table was still filled with cheers and words of gratitude. I nodded and simply said, "Okay." Then, amid all the commotion, I quietly put down my chopsticks. No one knew that under the table, I was clenching my fingers so hard they had turned white. The pain of my nails digging into my palm kept my mind unusually clear. I raised my eyes and looked around at all those excited faces. My oldest cousin, Yang Wei, was already taking photos of his keys to post on social media. The caption read, "My grandfather loves me. My first Audi." My cousin Jiang Lin was already calling her friend to arrange having the windows tinted the next day. Even the youngest, Jiang Xiaoyu, who had just turned 20, received a BMW 3 Series and was crying with excitement. Suddenly, I remembered something. Last year, on Jiang Xiaoyu's birthday, my grandfather directly sent 20,000 yuan to the family group chat and said Xiaoyu was the little princess of the family. But on my birthday, he never said a single word in the group. He did not even send me a private message. It wasn't that he forgot. He had simply never remembered. My mother, Chen Huifen, once told me privately, "In your grandfather's heart, your father's branch of the family has been pushed aside for a long time." Back then, I told her not to overthink it, that my grandfather was cold, not unfair. Now I realized the one deceiving himself had always been me. My second uncle, Jiang Jianmin, who was sitting beside me, seemed to notice my silence. He lowered his voice and said, "Xiao Chen, it's already decided. Don't take it to heart. Your grandfather must have his reasons." After saying that, he turned away and continued discussing the stock market with my uncle by marriage. Of course, my grandfather had considered everyone's needs. My oldest cousin wanted status, so he got an Audi. My cousin wanted practicality, so she got a BMW. Another cousin wanted to show off, so he got a Mustang. Only I was considered so carefully that I received nothing at all. I picked up my glass of soda and took a sip. It was sweet, but I could hardly swallow it. My company had moved to the development zone 6 months earlier. My commute took an hour and a half. In fact, I had been saving up for a long time to buy a car, but every month I had to transfer 36,000 yuan to my grandfather's care facility. That left me unable to save anything. I wanted to ask why. Out of 13 grandchildren, I was the only one who had been forgotten. But my grandfather had already turned away and resumed discussing Audi options with Jiang Wei. I noticed that while talking to Jiang Wei, my grandfather glanced at me from the corner of his eye. It was such a quick glance that if I had not been watching him, I would never have noticed it. There was no guilt in that look, no hesitation, not even intent, only the most ordinary indifference, as if it were completely normal that I did not belong at that table. Suddenly, I remembered that when my father was alive, my grandfather treated him exactly the same way. At family gatherings, my father always sat in a corner. No one talked to him, no one served him food. He was not even included in the toasts. At the time, I did not understand. I thought my father was simply introverted and unsociable. Later, when my father died, my mother took me to the funeral. My grandfather did not even stand up to greet her. He remained seated in his chair and coldly said, "You've come," and that was all. At the time, I was a teenager, trembling and crying in front of my father's photograph. My mother stood beside me in silence. She only squeezed my hand tightly. Looking back now, it wasn't that my mother wasn't sad. She simply didn't dare cry, because she knew that in that family, no one cared. The dinner continued. My cousins excitedly discussed the details of picking up their cars the next day. Which color looked best, whether to add extra options, where to get the best insurance deal. I ate quietly, tasting nothing. I remembered that 6 years earlier, my grandfather suffered his first stroke and was hospitalized. My uncles discussed privately how expensive it would be and considered hiring caregivers to take turns caring for him at home. I was the one who stepped forward and said I could pay for the care facility. At the time, I had been working for 4 years and earned 25,000 yuan a month. I borrowed money from friends and somehow gathered nearly 400,000 yuan for the first year, and then I kept it up for 6 years. During those 6 years, the facility's cost rose from 380,000 yuan a year to 430,000 yuan. Every month without fail, I transferred 36,000 yuan to the designated account. After rent and living expenses, I had almost nothing left. I lived on the other side of the city in an old neighborhood, a 40 square meter one-bedroom apartment, filled with worn-out furniture the landlord had left there years ago. Because I could not afford a down payment, I did not own a home. Because I never had spare money, I did not dare pursue a serious relationship. Although there actually was a girl. Her name was Su Wan. She had been my university classmate. After graduation, she worked in the same city. We were together for 2 years. She never minded that I was poor. She never minded that I lived in an old neighborhood, nor that I often worked overtime on weekends. She only wanted me to spend more time with her. But every month I had to send 36,000 yuan away, so I constantly accepted side jobs and freelance projects. On weekends, I built systems and software architectures for other people. Once, on her birthday, I promised to take her out for a nice dinner, but an urgent project came up. I worked until 1 in the morning, and only then remembered to message her. "Yang Chen, do you think it's normal that I'm always the one waiting for you?" I called her that night, but she did not answer. The next day, she sent me a long message. "I'm not afraid of struggling alongside you. What scares me is that you never tell me why you're struggling. Who are you sending money to every month? Why do you never explain? What am I to you?" I never explained, not because I didn't want to, because I didn't dare. I didn't dare tell her that I had poured all my savings into a bottomless pit. I didn't dare tell her that in that so-called big family, I could not even get a car. I didn't dare tell her that I worked myself to exhaustion trying to prove my worth, yet could not even preserve my dignity. In the end, Suan left. On the day we broke up, she stood outside my rented apartment with red eyes and said, "Jiang Chen, you're a good person, but you're not suitable for a relationship. You carry too many things inside you. So many that there's no room left for me." I nodded and only said, "I'm sorry." When the door closed, I could hear her crying in the hallway for a long time. I leaned against the door and looked up, but in the end, the tears still fell. Since then, I have never had another relationship. Not because I didn't want one. I was simply afraid. Afraid of disappointing someone. Afraid of discovering once again that I didn't even have the right to love. Every quarter, when the payment notice from my grandfather's care facility arrived, his assistant would take a photo and send it to the family group chat. She would deliberately tag me and write, "Payment received. Thank you, young Master Jiang." Young Master Jiang. I thought about those 3 words for a very long time. I did not know what I was supposed to feel. In the family group chat, my second uncle, Jiang Jianmin, sent a thumbs up emoji and wrote, "Xiao Chen, that's very thoughtful of you." My third aunt, Jiang Zulan, added, "Filial children always receive blessings." My eldest uncle, Jiang Jiangguo, said nothing. He simply sent a red envelope gift with the note, "Thanks everyone." I opened it. There were 8 cents inside. The group chat became as lively as New Year's celebrations. Only my message disappeared beneath the flood of stickers and congratulations. I left the chat and opened the calculator on my phone. 6 years, 72 months, 36,000 yuan every month, adding the facility's New Year fees, annual equipment maintenance, and specialist visits. On average, at least 430,000 yuan per year. Over 6 years, that amounted to 2.58 million yuan. In this city, that was enough for the down payment on a small 2-bedroom apartment, enough for a fully equipped Porsche, enough to secure my mother's retirement, and I gave it all to someone who would not even give me a car. Suddenly, I remembered a question Su Wan once asked me. "Does your grandfather treat you well?" Back then, I answered without hesitation. "Yes, he's my grandfather." Now I realized that wasn't my real answer. It was the answer I wanted to be true. Before the dinner ended, my oldest cousin, Jiang Wei, suddenly changed the subject and, laughing, asked if I was upset. He said he could lend me his Audi for a few days so I could satisfy my curiosity. Lend it, not give it, and he specifically emphasized, "my Audi." My grandfather tapped the table lightly and said, "The matter of the cars is already settled." Then he looked at me, his tone slightly softer. "You're a good boy, and Grandpa knows that. But your job is different. You sit in an office writing code. What do you need such a nice car for?"